Excuse me. All right. Let's see. That's cool. That's cool. And we're going to pop out the chat. Kick out the jams. And that's not the chat. That's the wrong window. There we go. And we're going to switch over to live chat, not just top chat. And then we're going to hit this button here. I hope you're doing well. I hope you can hear me. It seems like you can. The meter's bouncing and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that you're having a good day, whether it's a Sunday or a Monday. It depends on where you live. Someone named Adam says, I'm here 4 hours ahead of the start to lend my support to my fellow big shoulder disliker. I think that they look ridiculous. Hot takes right off the get. And I'm here for it. If you don't like big shoulders, then you're not a real Warhammer fan. Probably true. Probably true. Pixel Boy, how you doing? James, this is why you don't go full shoulder pad. Well, that's true. Robin Mankiller, I'm painting my classic Space Hulk collection. Perfect. There you go. Yeah, the original like first edition type Terminators that were in the original first edition Space Hulk box, because I painted them for a friend of mine. They had real tiny little shoulder pads, and they were like, you know, secure in their shoulder padness. So that was good. Let's see. Big shoulders just mean you can't scratch your head in puzzlement over the new Force Org chart. I didn't even know there was a new Force Org chart, but it doesn't surprise me. Let's just say that. And then you're right. You can't be like, because you can't get your arms up over this. Like when those guys go to the club, they can't do YMCA at all. I'm just saying. Haven't been able to catch your live stream in a while. This is the first time YouTube has actually popped up a notification for me. Well, we're glad to have you here, Ann Oyster, and also glad that YouTube's doing its job for once. That's cool too. Afternoon from Erskine, which I'm probably mispronouncing, Scotland, painting a fence in the sun, then off to get coffee. Like if it's a lovely day and you're doing it in the sun, that's good. If it's a hot and gross day like it is here currently already and will get worse, then not so much fun. But I hope that you don't get sunburned. Morning from Northeast Georgia mountains. How you doing? The real Chuck. If Warhammer and Warcraft have taught me anything, it's that big shoulder pads are peak armor. I'm dubious of the whole concept. War Machine also. Who are those guys? The church guys in War Machine. I can't think of their names, and I kind of, yeah. But those guys also, big shoulders. You may not believe in big shoulder pads, but big shoulder pads believe in you. They shouldn't. They really shouldn't. Let's see here. Greetings from up here in Canada. How you doing? Happy time of day to you. Hope everyone has a great Sunday. I also do as well. Bad Internet Friends podcast. Good morning from a campsite in Bow Valley Provincial Park, or it could be Bow Valley. That's a good question. I like big shoulders, and I cannot lie. All you battle brothers can't deny. See, that's well done. Don't get me wrong, but and I'm not going to say you're wrong in liking bad shoulders. I'm going to think it. I'm just not going to say it. Did I see these guys in the beginning of The Fifth Element? Sort of, yes, yeah. Catching Uncle Adam from Idaho. That sounds like a tongue twister, nearly. Frederick, how you doing? Good morning from a hot and humid Yorktown, Virginia. Yeah, it's going to be, I think, hot and humid here today, too. It's supposed to get up to around 88, 89, which we had hotter and more humid earlier this week, I think, or something like that. But then it got nice, and now it's not nice. So what are you going to do? Dragonfire, morning from Quebec. How you doing? Rod, good morning. Like your new game. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. It's something we enjoy, and it's been fun. We are going to be, I think, doing some more marketing for it, stuff like that and whatnot as we kind of go along, but we're already working on Snarl with 2025. Snarl is a zine that we do. It's just a little mini. Do I have one around here? Yep. It's like this. The thing is it's not printed. Like, you can print it if you want. We give you a version that's very easy to print, but we can't get it printed and shipped to you. So it's PDF only. So on the upside, no shipping. On the downside, if you want to get a printed version, you got to print it yourself. But it's pretty simple. You just basically, like I said, in the file, there's one file that just shows page, and then, you know, next page and next page and next page for looking at on your phone or your tablet or your iPad or your laptop or whatever. But then there's also a version in there where the pages are all laid out for printing. So it'll be like page, whatever page this is, 36 or something, and then page 1 over here, and then you flip it and all that kind of stuff. So, anywho, we did one in 2023. We did one in 2024. It's always in like November. Next one's coming out in November of 2025, and we are currently working on it. So that's the next thing. Let's see here. Good morning from Cleveland. I'm finishing up some Trench Crusade terrain this morning. Nice. Good morning from a hot and humid Yukon, Oklahoma. Yes, BF Bulldog. It's hot and humid here too, and I'm not happy about it. Morning from a rainy Quebec City. Not a fan of those shoulders, but they are funny as heck. They are funny. That's true. VJ Morph, how you doing? Sweltering in Sussex, UK sunshine, painting referee parrots for volleyball. Nice. About to get smashed by a big East Coast low over here in Australia. So expecting a few days, if not a week, of heavy rain. Ooh, that's no fun. We've had some rain on and off as well. That's been a little heavy, a bit this week, but and we got flash flood warnings, but so far it's been good around here, at least in like our neighborhood, thankfully. So that's good. That guy right here at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning is driving his incredibly loud motorcycle with incredibly loud stereo down the street because America. Let me see here. Motor Breath Jazz, hello. How you doing? Ralph, good time of day from Clearwater, Florida. How you doing? Morning from Montreal. Sim, how you doing? The cough announced the arrival of the uncle. I mean, that was, yeah, I did. I was trying to finish up my breakfast, which is these little Belvita crunchy things. I like the cranberry and orange flavor myself. That's hashtag not sponsored. But I got it stuck in my throat a little bit of them. So yeah. Let's see. Morning from Toronto. I'm surprised I'm up this early. Well, there you go. Sure. Good afternoon from a hot and humid Isle of Wight. I think hot and humid is kind of a recurring theme in a lot of parts of the northern hemisphere, at least right now. I don't know. Buzz Ragog, how you doing? Morning from Orange Park, Florida. How you doing, Anna Meister? Let's see here. And we're live, indeed. Don't forget to pump up the volume. I mean, sure. Fungazi, good morning from hot and muggy Washington, D.C. How you doing? Yeah. I'll be in Washington, D.C. in a couple of months. I'll be there at the end of August. Early starts mean more day for hobby. That's true. Coming in 5x5. Good to hear. The Saturnine are starting to grow on me. I'm not spending $300 on 50 more models, though, because reasons. I have a lifetime supply of this stuff, maybe. Sure, yeah. Molly, Guten Morgen, how you doing? Just gone Monday over there in Australia land. Gotcha. Good morning from Mesa, Arizona. Dorky Dad, good to see you. Double Dip, good afternoon from Kent, England. Captain Mannerings, what's Horus Heresy? Fantasy coded? It is a little fantasy coded, you're not wrong. Let's see here. Pesler the Polychromatic. Good morning from Saskatchewan, Sir Adam. How can you say that you're not into big shoulders when you've lived through the 80s? I mean, I wasn't into him then either, really, particularly, but yeah. Good afternoon from South Africa, working on some Sisters of Battle today. Nice. Darknet, morning from Texas. Fransax, I might pick up a sprue of the Mark II on eBay, but not fussed about the rest of the box. Gotcha. Good morning once again from Santa Cruz. Had a fantastic weekend of Mordheim last weekend. Nice. That sounds fun. Can't T-pose for dominance. That's also true, but not when you got those shoulder pads. That's true. Jesse says, good morning from sunny, soon-to-be hot Milwaukee. Shoulders should have guns mounted on them. Well, spaceship shoulders. I mean, You're not wrong. There should be cannons in there. You got all that space up there. Like, what do you keep it up in there? Your lunch? Yeah. Let's see here. Anyone else think the Saturnine looked like Bugs Bunny in a zoot suit? That's a good point. 80s called and they want their shoulder pads back, yeah. Hi from stupidly hot North Carolina, making more Bangarang and Skirm in the Gutterlands miniatures. As a fan and owner of the original prototype Terminators these are based off of, I don't mind them. Gotcha. Good morning from Columbus, Ohio. How's that Terminator armor even functional? Was never a fan. I mean, if we're going to get down to brass tacks, has Terminator armor, or even power armor in general, ever been really functional? I mean, I've seen images before of people online where they take like someone in Terminator armor, they show and then they draw like, well, what their body must look like on the inside. And I think they tweaked it and fixed it a little bit with the most recent version of the regular Terminator armor, like back in 9th edition or 10th edition or whenever it was. But yeah, there have been some definitely Terminator sculpts. You're like, yeah, humans ain't going to fit in there. I'm sorry. Protectorate of Menoth. That's the word I couldn't think of. Yes. Hi, Uncle Adam. I'm glad to report that Golden Rhino Games in Yspelante, Michigan had copies of Rain and Iron for sale for its customers. Nice. That's pretty cool. Let me see here. Listening at work on this hot day in Massachusetts. I think it's hot mostly across the United States. Trying to relax for a few hours before work. Drew, I hope things go well. Bradley Bartholomew. Hi, all from Toronto. Basing Eldari, so I guess I like shoulder pads. I mean, they've got shoulder pads, but they kind of go more this way. Definitely more zoot suitish, I think, to some degree. I'm absolutely sure that the Eldari are big fans of, what was the name of that band that did Zoot Suit Riot? Cherry Poppin' Daddies? Was that what it was? Yeah, definitely big fans over there in Eldar land. Working on Last the Gravedigger's starter to Adam's soothing voice. Well, I hope it helps. Big shoulder pads units are the only ones I actually like out of the new box. Well, it's divisive, let's say that. Afternoon from a muggy Puckle Church in the UK, working on some 1984 metal skeletons for my retro 2nd edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle project. Wow, that sounds fun. I mean, I don't like working with metal models too much these days. Every once in a while I find something I'm like, these are not bad. But morning from North Queensland, slightly smellier as I am experimenting with a resin printer. Ooh, yeah. Good morning from Wausau. How you doing? This Mechanic Games. How you doing? Good morning from Iowa. Good morning from a very rainy Juneau, Alaska. I was like, Arkansas? No, that's not right. Alaska. Working on some minis for 1490 Doom. Let's all hope the shoulder pad era of the 1980s never comes back. Yeah, I don't disagree. It probably will, though. You know what I mean? Greetings from Boise. Slowly working on Iron Hands. Keys of Hell Kill Team. Nice. Have you seen the Cyberpunk Atom Smasher model? I came across it this weekend looking for cyborg police robots. Yeah, I mean, Atom Smasher, spelled slightly differently than how I spell mine, as it turns out, has been part of like Cyberpunk, like the role-playing game forever, which I did not, I guess, initially realize. Like, I started like years and years and years ago in the 90s. Was the first time I got online someplace, like through Telnet or something, through the university. And I was going to college at the time, and it was the first time that I was ever asked, like, oh, what's your username type of thing by some system or whatever. So I'm like, what am I going to use for a username? And we all have gone through that at some point where you come up with a username and you stick with it for like years and years and years, usually. And so I thought, well, I'll just use basically my name, which is Adam, but I'll just change the way it's spelled to Adam, like the little, that's what an atom does. And so I did that, and then at some point I thought, well, Atom Smasher, I mean, that's a thing. It's a science thing. I don't know what it does. It smashes atoms, I guess. I don't know. But I'm like, that sounds cool. That'd be cool for, And so you did that, and then it was much later that all of a sudden, I'm like, there's a guy named Atom Smasher in Cyberpunk. And then Atom Smasher was in Cyberpunk 2077, the video game. And then he says something very rude to you when you first meet him in the game, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he's evidently also been in the Edge Runners anime, cartoon, whatever you want to call it. But my wife and I watched like the first one or two of those, and then we just sort of fell off. It just didn't stick. So, but nonetheless, it was yeah, he's been in that system or whatever for a while, but I didn't initially know about him because I didn't ever play. I was a Shadowrun guy, not a Cyberpunk guy. I was aware of Cyberpunk 2020s, which I think what they originally called it back in the 80s or whatever. But I didn't play that. I played Shadowrun. And I'll be perfectly honest, there's a very big part of me that thinks I probably played Shadowrun. Well, a big portion of it is that the art and the layout was better looking. The original Cyberpunk 2020 book was kind of, it was a little, and the stuff that FASA did just looked so much better, and I was like, I want to play that. It wasn't because there were like elves and dwarves and stuff in it and everything like that. Honestly, I was never into that part of it necessarily myself. But any character I ever played was never a metahuman. It was always just like a regular person, but usually like street samurai or something like that. That was usually my jam. Thank you for teaching me that not every mini has to be display level. Absolutely. Good enough is good enough to be able to get minis on the table and actually enjoy games versus being paralyzed trying to paint like a pro. Absolutely. The only people that need to paint like a pro are pros, like who are doing it because they want to like get like an award or whatever. If you are just like, yeah, but I just want to play fun games and have painted models, then don't necessarily try to achieve those lofty heights. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really kind of important to understand that, I think, as a hobbyist, that may be what you see constantly through social media and magazines and this and that and whatever and all that kind of stuff, but it's not what you need to be doing. You can do basically the only person you have to make happy with your paint job is you. So, now, if you're only happy with your paint job, if it's a Golden Demon winner and you're just starting out, well, then you should teach yourself to be happy with something a little bit less, at least for a while, until maybe you become a Golden Demon winner. You could. It's just, not something that a person does right off the get. The shoulders are clearly the optimal location for shield generators. Indeed. Hello from sunny Edinburgh, Scotland. I do rather like the chunky Saturnine lads. They are part of 40K's tradition of absurdity that I enjoy greatly. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you like them. My pile of potential is large, plus those Cathay models tempt me. I will never play it, but a Jade Golem is hard to resist. I said this to a friend of mine, I think possibly yesterday. Those models are so good, I am surprised that GW made them. Now, that is not to say that GW can't make good models. It's just to say that lately, most of the stuff they sculpt, I'm like, either like, it's okay, it's GW, it's their look and their feel and their whatever, or it's like, the shoulder pads, I'm not interested, you know what I mean? These models, the Cathay models, not only are they incredibly good looking, but they also just don't feel like Warhammer models. They don't have the same tropes that a lot of Warhammer models have built into them. Like when you show me, like, I think that the Cities of Sigmar models, the new Cities of Sigmar models, I think they're awesome looking. I think they're great. But if you said, hey, who do you think designed these? And I just saw them, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's GW, because they have a GW vibe to them. But if somebody showed me, when I first saw those Cathay models, I was at a GW event, so I knew it was, they displayed them at, where the heck was it? Adepticon, I think? I don't know. I think it was Adepticon. But like, if I had just seen a picture of them, like some of the close-ups and stuff, I'd be like, who's that sculptor? That's really cool. So I do wonder if there's a new sculptor who's working on that, because it doesn't, I don't know, the Cathay models just don't really vibe for me on this is definitely Warhammer or GW in specific, but they're super good. They're really, really good. And I like the fact that I don't look at them and go, that's more of the same. They're like that. The big Sentinel guy, he's awesome. And then that big lantern that they're basically using, like it's like a giant like Asian lantern, but it's a airship. Come on, that thing's amazing. So yeah, props for that. But I thought it was so strange that they just don't put me in the mind of GW models actually, but they are all awful pretty. From a marketing perspective, I thought GW nailed it with the Saturnine Termi. They not only revived an old design, but they revived and reinforced the lore as well. Now there's no doubt they existed. I mean, I guess if that's a thing you need. I mean, if they're just going to make them and go, there they are, and you'd be like, okay. I don't need the lore reinforced for me personally, but you know, if it makes people happy who are like super into the Horus Heresy stuff, that's cool. Going on your pile of potential, have you seen Hammer the Backlog? I like his accountability metrics. I've never heard of. No, I don't. I don't know anything about that. I do know. I got a friend who's part of the Horus Heresy Accountability Buddies. I think it's maybe a podcast. My friend Duncan. I have a poster that I framed that I put up in the basement that they made. He gave it to me a couple years ago at Adepticon, but I don't really know much about it. I mean, the accountability stuff is super important if that's a thing that you are looking for. Sometimes it doesn't work out because, you know, life gets in the way. So that happens, you know. Good morning from the land of sunshine and rainbows, Cleveland, Ohio. Working on my Demon Prince of Corn for my Old World Army. Nice. I had no idea that Cleveland was the land of sunshine and rainbows, but it makes sense. Good afternoon from a warm Denmark. How you doing, Kimmy? Working on some, yes, it's controversial, Ultramarines. I don't have any problem with Ultramarines. I think they're nice. It's a nice blue. They're fun. Good time of day from a hot and sunny Surrey, UK. How you doing, Space Doc? Let me see here. Manoth, Protector to Manoth, time of day. There we go. I do like those shoulder pad Viking Space Wolves with no helmets. Are they OSHA compliant? I mean, I don't understand why ever a Space Marine takes off their helmet. It seems like a bad idea. Warning from a hot Laredo, Texas. I mean, Texas is generally hot, so I would assume so, but yeah. But maybe if it's like what's considered hot for Texas is probably even considerably more hot than it is here, most likely. Large shoulder seems to limit combat effectiveness, but what do I know? I mean, exactly, same thing. What do I know? I'm not a big fan of the shoulder pads either, but I'm still getting the box. Well, that's good. Taking a break from pressure washing my block paved driveway. I've never done pressure washing. I thought about like maybe it'll help to clean the house, and then a friend of mine was like, "Yeah, you have vinyl siding. You'll blow it right off the side of your house." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's not do that then." So yeah, I've never done any pressure washing. Coming in a little quiet today. I mean, I'm hitting in the yellow area when I talk to some degree, and my mic is turned all the way up, and I haven't touched it. It's the normal that I generally do, so I don't know why that would be. That's weird. Good morning from Indy. I'll be in Indy in like a month or a little bit less. Be there for Gen Con. Big shoulders only work on women's clothing. Even then, I'm a little like in the 80s. I get it. Yeah, it was a vibe, but Midwinter Minis did a video painting 3 third-party minis with giant shoulders like these new GW Marines. His video was 4 or 5 years ago. Huh. Excuse me, The End, how you doing? Jim Crimmins, happy Sunday. I would watch, but your face is too close to the camera. It's a little unsettling. No offense or critique of your face. It's about as wide angle as I mean, because the camera is here. It's an arm's length away. But you could put it in a smaller window. That's a possibility. Good morning from Jonesboro in Southern Illinois. How you doing? Uncle Adam, have you played Hemetsu? If so, what's your thoughts? I haven't. I've heard of it. I know it's from Blacksite Studios, and it is like sort of post-apocalyptic feudal Japan, sort of. I think, if I'm correct. But I've not played it. I know who's done some battle reports. Ash, of course, from Guerrilla Miniature Games. Bigger shoulder pads would be in a war game based on the 80s movie Working Girl. Sure, right, there you go. Shoulders should be detachable combat drones. That'd be sort of cool. I'm not sure about the Horus Heresy, especially as most of the YouTube videos keep telling me it was the Horus Heresy. Whoa. I always thought it was the Horus Heresy. It was just just horses being heretical, but turns out it wasn't. Hello from Italy, working on Nurgle units. Nurgle's fun to paint. I enjoy painting Nurgle. I haven't painted any Nurgle in a while, so wish they made the shoulders a little bigger. Oh my goodness, hot takes. Morning from Omaha. I'm already looking forward to the next TMX. Nice. Well, it'll be in probably roughly the same time next year, so usually right around the first weekend of June. But I will know more as far as dates are concerned sometime a bit later this year. Good morning from Las Vegas. Looking forward to a rousing afternoon of Tanks for the Apocalypse. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Absolutely. Glad to hear it. For those of you who don't know, Tanks for the Apocalypse was the micro game that was the first game that we put in Snarl. This is the second issue of Snarl, and the game in this is called The Great Goblin Argle Bargle, and it's a game about goblins getting into big battles and stuff like that. So generally, Snarl is always, there's a micro game in there, and then there's usually some expansions or little add-ons for some of the previous normal games, the big printed games that we make, like Death Wizards, Rain in Hell, you know, etc., Space Station Zero. So, but yeah, usually the first part is all just, you know, this is the game, the Great Goblin Argle Bargle in this one. But the first book we did, which I don't have in this, it's downstairs in the basement, it's not here in my drawer. That one was called Tanks for the Apocalypse, and it's basically a tank battle game. You have a 28 millimeter Sherman size scale tank, so basically like bolt action, you know, that size tank, and each player has just one tank, and it's just, you know, my tank versus your tank versus their tank, and you can play up to 10 players on a 3 foot by 3 foot board, which is pretty cool. Anyone else sure that the Marine inside the Saturnine armor is actually Turkey Man? I don't know about Turkey Man. I think that what happens is that those shoulder pads should open up and extra Marines should come out, maybe. That'd be pretty cool. On your new video about piles of potential, I'm at that point where my hobby room is stacked to the ceiling with large box sets, and now I have to figure out if I should sell and recoup some space. Excuse me. Gosh. When you buy the big box sets, the trick is, if you do want to sell, it's usually not a bad time on those box sets, because a lot of those box sets sell out so fast that they become, people who want them and who didn't get them when you did can be interested in paying money for them, you know, and if you put them on eBay, there's all kinds of possibilities. So something to think about. But on the other hand, sometimes you do want to hold on to some of that stuff. It depends on whether you're going to, it comes down to the individual person about what you're going to do with it. You know what I mean? On the subject of humans fitting inside Terminator armor, I counter with this. Are the Marines even still human with all the modifications they have? I mean, sure, but their joints and their arms and crap all should still attach to their bodies and stuff. That's the issue, is that they're not like a normal sized human would fit inside. I'm just saying that, like, when you see pictures of Space Marines not in their, you know, Space Marine power armor, their legs aren't like super crazy bow-legged, or their hips aren't like super crazy wide, you know, but there's like the Terminators are like, well, how does he get, if his crotch is here and his hips and the pelvis, math isn't working out. That's part of the problem. Wish I could sell off my old War Machine even if a loss, just so someone else could use them. Yeah, this is back around 3rd edition War Machine. They're currently on 4th, I think, but somewhere around 3rd edition War Machine. So probably 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I was at Adepticon, and they usually have on Saturday nights, they have this big kind of swap meet kind of area where you can bring a bunch of like stuff that you have that's like used and sell it, and it's like a whole thing. And almost every single table was selling War Machine stuff, and it was, and so I'm hoping that Steamforge Games can turn that around. But at the time, it was a thing. How's the A1 going? Had my first spaghetti print today, but wiped down the plate and ran the calibration, and it was fine after. I haven't had any spaghetti. I've started printing a little bit of more Necromunda stuff, so I can start working on like a third and fourth tile. It's not running currently, but it was running earlier this week. Yeah, it's kind of humid, so I'm a little nervous about running there right now. And plus, I've also been crazy busy. So my mom's in the hospital currently. She's been in the hospital since Wednesday, and she's fighting an infection and stuff. And it seems like it's getting better and everything. But we're also, my brother and I are also trying to help her get into an assisted living place and all that kind of stuff. And then that means we need to help sell her condo and then clean stuff out of the condo. And there's a lot of things going on right now, unfortunately, in the non-fun, like non-hobby part of being an adult right now. So it's been throwing off my hobby stuff because it's been pretty nonstop. So I'm hoping that we can get all of that taken care of. I'm hoping we can get her into this place. It's looking positive, but it's going to be a crazy amount of work. And like I said, she's getting better, so that's good too. But it's been a lot the last 2 months have been a lot, but this last week has been a lot. So there's that too. Let's see here. Hello from Portland, Oregon. One of the rare places in North America that's not currently sweltering. Well, that must be nice. Let's see here. Like, honestly, a couple days ago, I was chilly. Like, was it Friday? Like, Friday night, I was like, ooh, it's kind of, but it was not bad. I liked it. And then now it's going to be kind of gross again today. Sweltering. Good afternoon from sunny Sheffield. Recently got into Legions Imperialis, so currently working through a big box of little things. Yep, that's a thing, Morning from sunny Toronto. We got a break from the heat, but it's climbing fast. Yeah. Edge Runners is worth the watch. I'm just not into anime, and so that's part of the problem. I've tried to watch Akira twice, and I've fallen asleep both times. The only anime that my wife and I have ever finished was Cowboy Bebop, but that's like super kind of vanilla, really. Like from what I understand. But yeah, so I don't know. As an ESL person, English is a second language. Yes, I was like, I couldn't figure what that meant. Sorry. It took me years to realize Adam and Adam are pronounced the same way. Only in American English, though. Yeah. Well, yeah. Nice to do a centerpiece, but then get them on the side table and enjoy your game. Sure. But all those minis on eBay are pro painted. Well, I mean, that's, Let's see here. Saturnine doesn't exist in my head, and you can't convince me otherwise. That's fine. I still think the Grand Cathay stuff looks more befitting to AOS than the Old World. You're not wrong. That is true, because the Old World, most of the Old World stuff is definitely, most of it was sculpted 20 plus years ago. And yeah, the Cathay stuff does seem like it should be something that would be in Age of Sigmar because of the level of detail and skill and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I understand that too. Absolutely. Even the Cathay Dragon looks awesome. It's surprisingly cheap too. Well, I just wish they played well with my high-end Wood Elves. Sure. Love the new Cathay, not the same design language as the rest of the Old World. Yes, you're right. I agree on that completely. Never apologize for liking Ultramarines. No, of course not. Afternoon all, waiting for my sponges to arrive so I can try out painting with them. Nice. I've washed something under pressure. Pressure washing is like reverse painting. I mean, there's that video game where you just pressure wash stuff all the time. That's sort of fun. Originally, Cathay were chaos worshippers in the lore, specifically Tzeentch. We're talking back in the mid-90s. No kidding. Huh. Don't buy any Marines now, so I don't have to care about the silly shoulders like DR Who's bad guys. Oh, Doctor Who bad guys. Gotcha. I was like, my My rough understanding is that Space Marine helmets are more fragile than the rest of their armor, so they get taken off when they get shot in the head and break. But yeah, Space Marines should have helmets. I don't know why they would make their helmets fragile. That seems like a bad idea. It sounds like a design flaw. I thought the Cathay stuff looked a little dull compared to the minis for things like Bushido and the coming Champions of Rokugan game. I don't think I've seen either of those. Well, I've seen Bushido stuff. Bushido stuff is kind of crazy, yeah. I haven't paid attention to sci-fi GW for a year and a half now. Sure. You've saved my sanity showing me Sonic Sledgehammer's new marine juice. Used it for my white scars, and it worked like a charm. Yeah. He does good work. Matt, how you doing? I believe Warlord Games is stopping the 2000 AD Judge Dredd license. Wish GW would get it. They could go shoulder pads that aren't as big as Space Marines, also slain. Yeah, I heard that too. That's kind of a bummer that they're doing that. I mean, I have probably what I need for, Judge Dredd going forward if I want to. Lord knows. But, I mean, that's the thing about licenses is that they don't stay around forever usually, or if they do, they get sometimes more and more expensive. It depends. Like, obviously, GW's had Lord of the Rings license for a long time and probably will continue to do so, but that they have all the money, so they can do that. But smaller companies can't afford, especially if the sales start to drop off on something, they can't afford to keep paying the licensing on something that's not selling. You know what I mean? And if the stuff wasn't selling particularly well, yeah. And I mean, look at X-Wing, look Star Wars X-Wing, like, a company as big as Asmodee was like, nah, we just can't afford that anymore. And, there was lots of reasons, all kinds of this and that, and I get it. But, yeah, that's just licensing in general. I mean, Vince and I are staying away from it. We've decided that we're not going to license anything. We were thinking about licensing Star Trek, but then we realized that somebody else did that, and we also didn't want to, and we didn't have that kind of money. And then we thought about trying to license I think it's late 80s or early 90s. I don't remember which. I think it's maybe 1988, maybe. The Rowdy Roddy Piper sci-fi epic Hell Comes to Frogtown. But that's probably actually owned by Disney now, as it turns out, because like this company, this company owned it, and then this other company bought that, and this other company bought that, and then Disney bought that. So Rowdy Roddy Piper is probably a Disney princess now, as far as that's legally concerned. So that's cool. But yeah, so we're not doing that, as it turns out, because we don't have Disney money. I've been working on some resin 3D printed goblins on critters to use as a wart nose team for Harefoot jousting. Nice. Also been FDM printing a bunch of extra square bases for Mordheim and the Old World. I want to try 3D printing some bases, not like cool textured ones, but just regular old, like the normal GW black bases that are sort of textured on top, and then they got the little bevel thing going on there or whatever. And I know it can be done. I just want to see if it, because the thing is that sometimes I look at those and I'm like, they just don't, I don't know. I want to find the right file and see if I can make it work. And I don't know, maybe I have to print it slower, or I have to print them at, 0.2 millimeter or whatever the deal is. But I would like to give it a try, because the bumpy texture on the build plate, then basically you print them face down, and then that makes the bumpy texture. And I'm like, well, that's cool. It makes a lot of sense. So, let's see here. Today's pile of potential assignment: Cool Mini or Not's Army of the Dead minis. Nice. Bob Naismith mentioned that back in the day, he and Jess Goodwin, were tasked with sculpting heavy power armor. GW released 3 of their variants. Jess Goodwin is the one that sculpted the Saturnine armor. Okay. One of these days, I'll get a printer to help me make a tangible copy of your guys' zines. Oh, just like a printer at your house? Sure. I mean, like, that's the thing. Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people have printers these days, because more often than not, paper printers still, in this day and age, year of our Lord 2025, most of them suck. It's just weird. I don't know how that happens. Good morning from Jacksonville, I'm assuming, or just Jax. You're going to paint some veteran guardsmen for Majestic 13. Nice. They will be Section 6 or Industrial Arms units, I believe. Thoughts? Veteran guardsmen are cool. I think they would work out well. I think for both industrial arms and for Section 6, they would also work out just fine. I have seen some people take the Section 6 thing and start to try to do a little bit more of a James Bond vibe, and they can totally do that. But in my mind, that's not what you're looking at. You're looking for a little bit more SAS for Section 6, but those guys, though, the veteran guardsmen will also work fine. I've got, what are my guys are those URA models from Wargames Atlantic, and the URA models are basically, they kind of look a little bit like the Colonial Marines from Aliens, the second Alien movie. They've got a little bit of that vibe going on, so they're slightly sci-fi, but not too sci-fi. And so those guys are pretty cool. I like them, but yeah, I just painted them, like I primed them black and then like zenithalled them like a dark gray, and then did some washes and a little bit of this and that, keeping them dark, so they're almost like Men in Black, but not with the suits and the sunglasses. And that's different thing altogether. Hello from Gilbert, Arizona. How you doing? My girlfriend and I cleared out boxes and sold a bunch of boxes under the question, if you haven't opened this in a year, will you use it at all? I felt quite sad at first, but it felt great after. Yeah, I can understand that. There's a lot of people who are into board games that do this technique, which I think is very smart, where they take like a 3x5 card and they put it into their board game box. And every time that they open up that box and play a game, they write down the date. And then at some point in the future, they can always go back and look inside that box and go, wow, I haven't played this in 5 years. And then you can decide about whether it's time to sell it or not. You know what I mean? As opposed to going, well, I love this game. It's awesome. Well, sure, you might, but when was the last time you actually played it? That kind of thing. Doesn't work exactly as the same thing with our thing, but with board games, I totally get it. Going to be painting some Trench Crusade terrain all day. That sounds like fun. I'm co-hosting a narrative event at Old Guard Games in Milwaukee in September, so lots to prep for. Nice. I still have not gotten down there. I need to. I don't know. I should go there like after Adepticon, because I usually stay till Monday these days now in Adepticon, and then I could do that, and then maybe on the way out of town stop there. But yeah. I do wish the Saturnine's head was had the actual weapons the Rogue Trader version had as an option. If you're going to service my nostalgia, don't half-ass it. Sure, I get that. I once saw an artwork where a Space Marine was just a head and a wormy body with no limbs. It was no longer needed them due to its armor having them. They tended to die by crushing their heads. I mean, that sounds gross, but it makes sense. Steamforged models are so much better than the Privateer Press models. Oh, for War Machine? Steamforged really knows what they're doing, which is part of why they're in a position to be able to basically buy that game. I understand that. I'll catch the rest of this later. Out to hike up a mountain. I'm leaving my giant shoulder pads behind. It's probably for the best, unless you get attacked by like a mountain lion, which I hope you don't. Malev, how you doing? Of course, that was parody artwork. Well, sure, yeah. Sorry to hear about your family stuff. Hope things get easier soon. I do too. I ain't selling my War Machine stuff. My friends have agreed to stick with 3rd edition and pretend that Mark IV doesn't exist. I mean, that's the thing. One of the things that's great about wargaming is you can totally be like, look, we're going to play this old game, or we're going to play an old version, or we're going to do, they don't turn off the servers and then be like, well, you can't do it anymore. Adulting sucks. Positive vibes. I agree. I appreciate that. I tried adulting once. It was the worst 10 minutes of my life, indeed. Oops, everything moved. Good luck with everything in your personal life. Positivity. I appreciate it, Sneezy. Dealing with family members getting older is tough. Yeah. Akira is a rough watch. It's spectacular, but it's a hard watch because it's so abridged from the original comic. Gotcha. Yeah. I just, like, you see it all the time. You see that shot with the guy in the motorcycle, or he's walking to the motorcycle. I have like a t-shirt where instead of him like walking to the motorcycle kind of shot, it's Boba Fett walking to Boba Fett's spaceship thingy and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, that's, you see that all the time, all this like knockoffs of that. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think a little bit of it's cultural too. There are sometimes like references, and you see this sometimes, like I see this like when you're watching a show, like a show in England, and they make a reference to somebody like maybe an actor or a famous person or a politician or whatever, and you don't know who that is, so you're like, I didn't get the joke, you know, and that kind of thing. And I'm sure that the same thing comes, you know, this way too. But yeah. Um, Greetings from Czech Republic. How you doing? Akira, Ninja Scrolls, and Fist of the North Star were good back in the day, but I'm not really a fan of modern anime. Gotcha. Anime I like can be counted on one hand. Robotech, Gundam, Record of Lodos War, and Ghost in the Shell. Does that live-action Zerium movie count? I don't know. I have no idea. The Ghost in the Shell movie with Scarlett Johansson, I like that. I know that makes me a bad person, but it's fine. I'm okay with it. Thanks for recommending Marine Juice. That stuff is only slightly less miraculous than Army Painter Speed Paint Metallics. It is amazing, and Speed Paint Metallics are also amazing. I agree. I saw a video about AI-generated terrain that will give you 3D models to print. Do you think your tech will go anywhere or just remain fringe? My tech? Which tech? AI-generated terrain that will give you 3D models to print. I don't know. That's a good question, I guess. I mean, I could see... I don't know if I've ever seen anything that's AI generated, but in the past, there were definitely things where you could be like, you would kind of algorithmically, let's say, generate a depth map, meaning usually that like white is the highest and black is the lowest, and it would make this 2D thing and then turn it into a 3D thing, and then it could turn that into an STL, and you could make like a bumpy thing. I don't know how useful that is in most situations. Like in 3D graphic simulations, sure, but in 3D printing, you don't want the stuff to be too bumpy because your guys can't stand on it and they'll fall down all the time. Unless you can take that and expand that out to a larger scale, potentially. I don't know. That's a good question. As far as AI, yeah, I don't know either. Excuse me. Goodness. Idle curiosity. What would Star Trek cost to license for an indie game? Probably like a couple $100, and we're like, nah, I don't know if it's worth it. Actually, I have no idea. I'm sure it's a lot. I mean, currently WizKids is doing the Star Trek. They've got a Star Trek miniatures game right now. WizKids does that is like, I forget what it's called. Star Trek: The Great Unknown or something like that. I don't know. But they're like pre-painted ships. It's got a bit of a X-wing, the Star Wars X-wing miniatures vibe. But they're not. I don't know if they're carrying the ball as well. I don't know. Like there's some stuff that's been released, but like nobody's barely heard of it, which is interesting. Like I don't like your WizKids. How is it you're not pushing this? Like if you're paying for the license for Star Trek, for God's sakes, and then you sell the stuff. Like I stumbled across the starter box for the Star Trek game at Gen Con last year. I was walking by the WizKids booth. They had all kinds of crap going on. And then down here, they had this one Star Trek box. And I was like, ooh, what's that? And then they're like, oh, yeah, it's coming out like next quarter. I'm like, cool. Well, then next quarter turned into the next quarter and the next quarter. I did finally get the starter box. It's $150. It is stupidly expensive, in my opinion. And it comes with the Enterprise D, which is big, and then it comes with like a big Dominion ship and then a bunch of smaller ships, not that many smaller ships. And I have just unfortunately not had the chance to like try it out, but I bought it, but I had to go looking for it like hard on their website to find that it was finally available. I've never seen a single piece of marketing for it once. And I'm like, why would you spend the money on all of this and then not do anything with it? It's very strange to me. I don't get it. Want to find a lot of old anime. Hard to find anything good now. I'll link to you to Champions of Rokugan on the Discord. It looks pretty cool for a board skirmish game, and the minis look stunning. Oh, cool. I like the Grand Cathay Lantern. Wanted to kit bash for Necromunda, but the price tag is prohibitive. Yeah, and you're not wrong there. Currently painting Ogres. No shoulders to worry about. There you go. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Just got a new airbrush on Thursday. What is the proper consistency to put your pan, I'm assuming paint, through your airbrush? Generally, you're trying to look for skim milk. That's the consistency. Something like skim milk, not 2% milk, like more like skim milk. I generally just use actual airbrush paint. I use the Army Painter airbrush paints through my airbrush, and then I don't have to thin them or concern myself at all. I just go bloop and just drops into my little cup thing and spray and go to town, and it works awesome. Let's see here. Haven't seen Galaxy Express 999 yet. Wait, what? I don't know what that is. 1988. That's when Hell Comes to Frogtown. Gotcha. Ever thought about a non-combat tabletop game like along the lines of Snowfight 28? I haven't. Vince has talked about how sometimes he would think it would be fun to make a cozy game. I don't know. I'm not into the concept. Like even something like Burrows and Badgers or whatever, or Badgers and Burrows. I wouldn't say that's a cozy game. It's not like you're, oh, I'm a badger and I'm going to go, eat some radishes or whatever. It's a game about like I'm a badger and I have a sword and a shield and I'm going to go stab this other badger or whatever. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what it's about, but it's definitely about animals fighting with swords. I'm pretty sure. It is not whatever the heck that video game is that everybody likes, Stardew Valley, right? So a miniatures game of Stardew Valley, in my mind, I don't know. I don't think so. Personally, like, could it be done? Yes. Could it be done well? Potentially. Would people buy it? Do I want to do it? Not really. So yeah, that's kind of where that's at. Disney has Hell Comes to Frogtown. Apocalypse is here. I mean, someone looked online because I've talked about this idea before, and someone was like going online trying to figure out like who originally was like the production company, and now who owns them, and then who owns them, and then eventually they came back in a chat or whatever. And like, I think Disney now owns it. And I'm like, well, they probably don't know that. Number one, but number two, Rowdy Piper's a Disney princess, and I'm fine with that. 198J sounds like a man of iron lost on some Blackstone fortress somewhere. Sure, yeah. Print zines as intended at work. You're not wrong. Really like the pack from IOL on my mini factory. IOL. I don't know what IOL stands for. I use that pack to do all my bases for my fully 3D Death Guard army. Gotcha. Hello from Tasmania. How you doing, James? What's the difference between a half tilt and harefoot jousting? I don't know. That's a good question. Ow. I just bit my tongue just a little bit. I printed the square bases I mentioned face down. I also printed some 60mm round bases face down, all flat tops, no detailed theme surfaces, at least all free files off of Thingiverse or Cults 3D. Gotcha. The thing about the 0.4 nozzle is that then the sides have a tendency to be steppy, and that bothers me a little bit. So I think I would probably end up doing the 0.2s, which will take longer, obviously. I get it. Slain and Judge Dredd are going away from Warlord. Strontium Dog is already gone. Sad face, looking forward to more mini agnostic. I mean, you'll probably still be able to find the stuff out there, if you want to buy it and get into it. Publishers keep giving me STLs for bases, but I have mountains of bases around this place that I need minis to fill them. Sure, yeah, I get that. Just got done painting my 20mm Dark Eldar for OPR. Neat. Adulting is for the birds. You're not wrong. I've been currently painting OPR stuff on Twitch. I've been painting Robot Legions for Grimdark Future, and I'm having a lot of fun with them. They're really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to hopefully sooner versus later. Well, once I get them done, I'm going to then start to the other half of that box. They sent me a prototype of a box that's going to be coming out later part of the year called Broken Truth, which is going to be a 2-player starter box. Well, it's not a 2-player starter box. It's a 2-player army box. Each side is 1,000 points, so it's a fully playable 1,000-point army, and it's 2 of them in a box, along with terrain and dice and instructions and all the stuff you need. The terrain is like printed cardboard, but it's nice looking stuff. And I don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm hoping around 200-ish. I think that'd be great if they could hit that, but we'll see. But again, 2 fully playable 1,000-point armies. Part of that is because Grimdark Future, 1,000 points of Grimdark Future is a lot fewer models than 1,000 points of, say, 40K, right? But still, like if you want to play Grimdark Future with about as many models as you would use in, let's say, a 2,000 game of 40K, you're going to actually have to play 3,000 points of Grimdark Future to kind of hit that, right? Hope things get better and easier for your mom. You do what you have to. You're a good person. We know it. Well, I appreciate that, but it's, I'm doing what I can. Contrarian in me wants to assemble and paint exclusively metal miniatures for all my Snarling Badger games. You should totally do that if you want to. I kid because I love. Elder Care is not for the faint of heart. Positive waves inbound. I appreciate that. For me, I just don't like metal models myself, usually. Every once in a while, you come across one that's, like, not bad. And it's not like if it's a one-piece model and it's still well sculpted and it works in the situation, then I've got no problem with it. It's when I have, like, it's a metal model, but it's 5 pieces. I'm always like, this is going to be, or sometimes the pieces are real weird. Like the original, I bought metal models a long time ago at a convention. I want to say it was LVO, maybe in 2017. And I bought metal models for the Zombie Smith Games Quar. And trying to glue their little Quar heads and their skinny little Quar necks into the hole that was left on their torso and get them to stay there and not just snap off real easy when you look at them funny from the glue. Not awesome. They were no good, which is why I'm so glad they're in plastics now. But at the time, like, what's his name there? Corvus Belli. Like, they still do metal miniatures for the most part, from what I understand. But they've gotten to the point where their metal miniatures are far fewer pieces than they used to be. And, like, when this arm needs to go into this socket at the end of the shoulder on the arm, it is not a round, like, ball and socket, and let's hope this works out. It's like a weird kind of like polygon shape, like a rhombus, or no, I don't know. Anyway, and it goes into a perfect, like, there's only one way to put it in that shoulder, and it fits perfectly, and a little bit of glue takes care of it, and it's self-supporting, and like, that's the smart move if you're going to go metal. I get that. But the old, like, well, we'll just let you pose it however you want. We'll make a ball and socket, it'll be fine. And you're like, I bet it won't. You're going to need to pin that stuff, and that's a pain in the butt. So, yeah. Found a nice file for convertible bases. You print a top, and then these are inserted into various size bases, and then you can swap. Oh, neat. Oh. AI-generated anything is a travesty. In most situations, yeah, generally, yes. Yeah, I agree. Like, machine learning is one thing, but generative AI, I do not care for at all. Like, if it is a thing where the generative AI is trained off of the thing, how am I trying to say this? Like, if the generative AI is trying to help you with a thing and it is trained off of a very small, limited set of things, and it happens once in a while, not like with the stupid imagery of, shrimp Jesus and things like that you see on Facebook, but I mean, like, most generative AI has scraped illegally crap all over the internet, and that's no bueno. But if it's like, hey, we're going to use, like, a company will be like, look, we're going to use just our knowledge base for our product, and that's the entire feature set, and then maybe we can use that for some sort of generative AI to help us do something. Maybe it's okay. It's less egregious, but it's still like, yeah, just, get a person to do it. That's the thing too. Like, yesterday, I haven't even talked about this yet. Yesterday, our internet was screwy. Right around noon, I realized that we didn't have any internet. I'm like, well, that's not cool. And we have AT&T fiber, so it's usually rock solid. And I went and looked at the modem, and the modem was like, yeah, everything's cool, man. Everything's fine. Like, the little light in the front, it wasn't blinking. It wasn't red. It was just like normal white light, just being happy. I'm like, okay. But the router had an orange light on it that says we don't have any internet coming in. So I'm like, all right, reboot the router. Had to do it before, do it again. And it doesn't fix it, and it doesn't fix it. And I reset the router by sticking a needle in the back and the little button, holding it for 10 seconds, and blah, blah, blah. Nothing. Cool. So the router's dead. Had it for maybe 6 months. Maybe. Great. I'm not buying anything from TP-Link anymore. Sorry, just not going to happen. So anyway, well, I'm saying that now. I go to Best Buy, buy the exact same router again. TP-Link, same exact model, the whole deal. Bring it home, plug it in, right from the get. It says, no, there's no internet. Now, I know there is because I took the Ethernet cable that was coming out of the modem that was plugged into the router, and I plugged it directly into our Apple TV thing because it was the closest little doohickey there that took Ethernet. No problems. Watching YouTube, Netflix, fine. I also later on connected via wireless directly to the modem because it gives off wireless, which we don't use. We use it through the router. And I connected that, no problem. But the router was like, no, dog. But it's still weird to me that both routers, the old one and the brand new one, had exactly the same problem at the exact same time. And I'm like, something weird is coming from the modem to maybe make this happen. I don't know. So I go to call AT&T. Well, you can technically. It's easier to get into a chat. So I get into a chat and I'm like, can I talk to a human on a phone, please? It would be faster and make me feel better. And they're like, yeah, but it'll probably be a half-hour wait. I'm like, all right, let's do this via chat. I hate doing it via chat. So anyway, nothing came of it. They're like, well, everything seems fine and you can see internet when you plug into the modem. There's got to be some sort of problem with your router. And I'm like, but it's on both routers and they're new, and one of them's new and the other one's sort of new. And anyway, so I go back to Best Buy, give them the new router that I just bought, say it doesn't seem to work, and then bought a completely separate, not TP-Link brand, some other brand. I bought a mesh thing. So it's like small little pods, and you plug one into your modem, and then the other ones you just stick around the house, just plug them into the wall to power them, and then they make a mesh Wi-Fi thing. The downside is I need at least 3 Ethernet plugs plugged into the back of the router or whatever, and these don't do that. They have one, basically, that you can plug into. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just buy a little unmanaged 5-port switch and plug that into it. And it works for about 15 minutes, and then the switch goes offline or something happens, and the rest of the internet's fine. Everything else works fine, but that switch stops doing its job. And I thought the switch was bad, but then I realized it's probably because I have a 5-port unmanaged switch plugged into technically an 8-port unmanaged switch down in the basement, and the switches are fighting with each other and stuff. So now I need to figure out how to get around that. And I'm not a networking person, so I'm just doing a lot of Googling to try to figure out what could be potentially going on. Currently, obviously, this is working, but this machine still, to this day, at this point, this desktop is still technically on Wi-Fi. But I mean, the Wi-Fi is like I don't know. The Wi-Fi is very fast out of this new mesh thing. On my iPad, I was like, I don't know, maybe only sitting maybe 5 feet away, but the Wi-Fi signal was 400 to 500 up and down, and our fiber is about 600 plus up and down usually. So that's pretty good for Wi-Fi, I think. But I do eventually want to get this thing actually wired, Ethernet. And I want to get the Ethernet hub that I have downstairs, or not hub, switch. I got to get that basically working again before Monday. Otherwise I can't stream on Twitch on Monday. So I've been fighting with a lot of internet while everything else is going on, and it's been not awesome. Let's say that. Can you share your thoughts about terrain, potentially? Do you prefer terrain that's immersive or that is impactful or have special rules? I do like my terrain to look... special rules are kind of cool, depending. You can go overboard with it, in my opinion. But sometimes it's cool. I don't know. Like the Age of Sigmar thing where you're like, oh, this area is haunted, or this area is mystical, or this area is... sometimes I don't need that as much. For me, my big thing with terrain is that I really like it to be kind of, I don't want to say dull, but I don't want it to take away from the models. When I do terrain, I do a lot of like grays and browns and things like that, because I want my models to stand out on the table and not like, oh, I painted up this piece of terrain and it's super cool. I used 28 different paints and all that stuff. And then you're like, but where are the models? You're like, well, they're on this table somewhere. I don't know where, but the terrain looks awesome. So I have a tendency to keep my terrain a little bit more subtle, is a word. Stayed. I don't know. Anyway, that's generally what's going on there. So, but as far as like special like things, yeah, there's some of that. If it's built into the game, like we have in our games, there will be sometimes like rocky crags, and then there's like other types of rocky crags that have like a special ability or a special rule, and you can choose to use them or not. It's up to you. So we do give you some tweaks, but we don't go real heavy into like there's 12 different types of like terrain modifiers that go potentially on each piece of terrain. We don't usually do that type of thing personally. Once in Six Side is the channel where the AI generated gaming terrain come from, and he was just showing what could be done and asking questions, but people came out of the woodwork to roast him. I mean, generative AI stuff is, yeah, you're going to get that online from a lot of folks. Most of my favorite animes are old man anime. Guyver is my all-time favorite. I've heard that word, but I don't know anything about it. The first season of Robotech. Like, I watched Robotech as a kid, like after school, which it was the American weird version of Robotech, evidently, that was like taking a bunch of other things and like squishing it together and doing other stuff. I've been told by anime heads, like, well, that's not real Robotech. That's not Macross or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. But they had that cool ship that was an airplane that turned into a robot, and that guy was neat, and I liked that. I also liked, when I was a kid, Voltron. Although even as a kid, we were like, use your sword. Seriously, that's the only thing that ever seems to work. You have all these other special things that you try every episode against the roe beast, and it's always like, well, the sword. There you go, done. And I'm like, just go to the sword. It'd make the show shorter. Anyway, when an 8-year-old is like, your writing is bad, that's not great. That's a problem. Galaxy Express 999 is an old anime by Matsumoto, who also did Captain Harlock. Vince Venturella's videos on basics and cleaning airbrushes is wonderful and very informative. I mean, Vince is a very smart person, and we all like him. So that makes sense. Using airbrush paint from a dropper bottle makes life easier. Yes. Ain't nobody got time to mix paint. I don't either. I agree. Let's see. Oh, geez, everything moved. Using cozy games can have combat. Stardew has hours of dungeon crawling. I had no idea. I thought you were just planting things. Burrows and Badgers is a bit like the Redwall series as a game. Also true. Redwall's a comic, right? About like mice fighting each other or something, I think. I've not read it. I've heard of it. Call me an old grognard, but I don't want cozy relationship games. I want fighting and conflict. Get off my lawn. I mean, it's a war game. So in my mind, yeah, it makes more sense to have a battle in a war game, but I don't know. Heck comes to Toad Hamlet, the unlicensed version. I was thinking a little bit, Heck comes to Toad Town, but you know, or Toadville, not Toad Town, Toadville. There you go. Burrows and Badgers makes me think of Redwall. Yeah. A lot of people say that. From what I know, Saturnine Terminators were just regular Terminators from 1988 that they dug up, figured the current designs were so departed, they decided to create lore and call it a different Terminator. Gotcha. Have you tried the synthetic brushes from GW? I liked them and they seem to work for me. Love the content. No, I don't think I have. I mean, like, I'm a synthetic brush guy usually, but I don't know if I bought a GW brush in a minute. I used to use GW brushes way back in the day when the handles were all black, and then at the back end of the handle they would dip it in a different color depending on which type of brush it was. And I always liked the yellow dipped. That was like the size and that I wanted. But there were other ones they haven't done that in a long time, so I don't know. I haven't touched a GW brush. Well, other than this really old one that I keep around for painting rims on bases, it's just beat to heck and doesn't come to a point at all anymore, but it just seems to be perfect for some reason for rim painting. Other than that, I've not bought a GW brush in 10 years probably. A cozy game with anthropomorphic characters, collecting supplies and farming like Stardew Valley sounds like a lot of fun as a dad with a few under 6 kids. I think that would be the benefit. It would be maybe good for kids, but that's the only thing I can think of. IOL, imitation of life. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Imitation of life. Gotcha. Not sure about half tilt. Harefoot jousting is team jousting. Teams of 3 halflings on various critters sort of running into each other in an arena. Wart Nose is the other half of the book for goblins. Interesting. They made a Stardew board game, but I haven't tried it. Well, there you go. Having said that, my ever older body is not a fan of moving storage cases full of metal miniatures. Yeah, metal miniatures are heavy, that's for sure. Quars look like battle droids from Star Wars. A little bit. They kind of have that sort of same. Yeah, I mean, really, battle droids look like Quar, because the Quar have been along. I think the Quar game has been around longer than the sequels to Star Wars, but I could be wrong. I guess that first sequel, or not sequel, the prequel was like in 99, wasn't it? So that's a good question. But basically, the Quars are supposed to be kind of anteaters. So they kind of look like anteaters. The metal model of the female power armor that Palladium made for that Robotech game was terrible. The torso weighed about 4 times more than the legs. It needed a huge flight stand just to stay upright. Yeah, that's no good. Pinning models is so hard for me. I can't line up the model with the paperclip. Yeah, no, I understand. Infinity models look nice, but too pricey for me. $120 for an Infinity Squad or a Mantic starter set, which includes over 70 models. Yeah, well. The only AI I like are the Bigfoot videos and putting my own artwork through an AI filter to see the nightmares it creates. Yeah, see, I'm not even into that too much. Every AI email I have received from students starts off with, I hope this email finds you well. If you aren't Jane Austen, don't start an email like that. Yeah, I know. I just saw a hat recently, or a t-shirt or something like that. It was some company that just makes funny t-shirts and stuff or whatever. And it said, I hope this email kills us both, which I just thought was kind of funny. Maybe it was a mug. Anyway. Gotta take care of my dad, but thanks for easing me into the day. Hope you have a great afternoon. Blue 9, same to you. Keeping you, your family, and your mother in my thoughts and prayers. I appreciate that. Right time to get painting. Lurk mode activated. Gotcha. Wait, what? Just noticed your title on YouTube as a typo. I'm not into the big shoulders. Oh, I forgot the Y in every. Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. It was late last night when I was typing that. I'm not gonna lie. Let me see here. The only Guyver that counts is Mac Guyver. Oh, I see. Yeah. Good anime is Legends of Galactic Heroes. It's about rival admirals over the course of a drawn-out space war. Neutral. Neutral's a good word in that situation, sure, in regards to terrain. New episodes of Voltron they did were pretty cool. I heard about those. They're on like Netflix or something like that. But I haven't watched any of that stuff. Hoping to pick up a Bamboo Labs FTM printer soon to print the 1490 Doom Castle and other terrain projects back on Kickstarter. My buddy with the resin printer will print my minis. Yeah, I'm going to be printing the Castle stuff very soon too for 1490 Doom. A lot of anime and Western shows I enjoyed as a kid, teen, are so much different as I remember them now. Like, how did it all make sense to me back in the day? Yeah, when you're a kid, you don't need stuff to make sense necessarily. How do we not notice the awful frame rate? I mean, that's in many situations I feel part of anime. Really, like most regular animation is at 12 frames per second instead of 24 frames per second. Let's say it's rare when you have an animated piece that's actually 24 frames per second. All that to say, yeah, sometimes anime is literally like you're lucky if you're getting 6 frames a second, if not even less. Hello from the Netherlands. How you doing? To each their own, but a game where I farm, mine, etc., video or tabletop doesn't appeal to me because I have a job already. I'm not paying to have another job at home. Yeah, I remember way back in the day, in the mid 90s, I lived with these two folks. I had 2 roommates, Sean and Phil, and I would come home from work. I was working security at the time. This was post college. I was working as a security officer or whatever at a diaper plant, which you'd be like, an entire truckload of diapers is incredibly expensive, as it turns out. But whatever. Anyway, what was my point? Oh, I was playing a game, one of the early MMOs, something called Ultima Online. Yes, I was playing Ultima Online back in the day, and because it was so long ago in the game, if you wanted to get wood to do stuff with, build things with, craft, whatever, you had to go chop trees. The problem is that when a person chopped a tree in the game, it wouldn't fall down. You would chop it, it would tell you got some, 4 pieces of wood in your inventory, and then the tree would just stay standing because it was a 2D sprite that was just there in the artwork for the world. So if you were going to go through and try to chop down wood, you'd have to walk up to a tree and, click on it to chop wood. And then it would be like, there's no wood in that tree. And you'd be like, oh, and you have to go find another one. And you'd have to like search around every tree to find one that someone else hadn't already gotten ahead of you. And it would take time and they would regenerate or whatever. But there was no visual indicator to let you know whether the tree had wood or not. So you had to go around and so I'd be sitting there. Sometimes I'd come home and start playing, and I'd still be wearing my stupid uniform or whatever. And I'd be clicking and clicking and clicking. And Sean would come and look and go, so you just worked 8 hours as a security guard and are you going to come home and be a lumberjack? And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I need to be able to buy shoes. And so I get that. This is one of the reasons I don't really play MMORPGs too much anymore either, really. I think the last one I played was, what the heck was it? New World, I think, which was maybe made by Amazon or somebody crazy. This was back in kind of during the pandemic. I was playing on that a little bit. New Naked Gun poster has a really funny joke about AI. I'll have to see that. I haven't seen that. I don't want my games to be like real world responsibilities, cooking, cleaning, and going to work. Yeah. I mean, some people are into that kind of thing for some reason. Like we were talking about before, there's that game that's just about power washing. I mean, that's something. AI is good for scanning images like medical because it can find things that humans tend to miss. That becomes more of a machine learning thing than it's not generative AI because it's not generating anything. It's using machine learning to find things. And that I'm generally okay with. Like you get that on your phone, right? Well, at least on my phone, iPhones. Maybe I don't know if Amazon. I don't know if Android phones do this, but you have this neat, I don't know if I can show it properly here. I need a picture of a cat. Here's a picture of a cat. So here's a picture of George, and he was shredding this box and then decided he wanted to look cute about it afterwards, which, but if I press and hold on him, it like highlights him and separates him from the background very quickly and easily. And that's a machine learning thing. That's kind of AI, but not generative. It's just, it's very smart about figuring out how to separate the background from the foreground type of thing. And then I could copy and paste him and put him in a message and send it to my wife. And it would just be floating, George or whatever. And so that type of stuff and looking at medical imaging. I've told the story before. There's a guy, there's a bakery in Japan where they basically, using machine learning and a webcam, were able to figure out like new people who worked there weren't able to tell the difference between like 100 different types of bread that they were selling on any given day. And so the webcam thing would be able to look at the different pieces of bread and figure out which one's this and which one's that and all that kind of stuff. And so that type of stuff I get, and it does help, but it's not making bread art or deciding to write you a new recipe for bread or it's just like it's doing a job quickly that it's not, it's, you have to train it to do it. That's the thing too. It's not using some other feature set. You're putting pieces of bread in front of it, and that's part of machine learning. You have to teach it, but then it gets real smart, pretty quickly. And I'm fine about that. Heard of a cozy game where you just assign some nondescript cargo onto railway bogey vans and then realize the cargo is people and destinations have, well, that's not good. That's a bad game. Let's not do that. I spent like £100 on terrain building supplies to build stuff for GOT. I don't know what GOT is. I think terrain building is equally satisfying hobby. Oh, absolutely. I love doing terrain. It also matters because Japan uses PAL and North America NTSC, and PAL has a different frame rate. Yeah, generally PAL is, I think, is PAL 25? I don't remember. Never understood people who play The Sims like my wife. I mean, yeah, sometimes you just want to do something sort of low stress, I get it, Getting hot here, working on the pre-orders my company did for a Dutch 1-ton truck. It's fun, but in a warm printing room, it is getting to be a chore. I understand that. MMORPGs are wizard chores. Yeah, a lot of situations. I like that episode of The Simpsons where the kids won't do yard work, but will go to a tech expo where they will play a virtual simulation of housework. Sure. I played Eternal Lands for a while. It was okay, but got boring after a while. Grinding just isn't my jam. There can be cozy games that are not work, exploration, trading, and other skills apart from fighting. Sure, sure. I think that it's hard to do with something like that in a miniature game, though. Like, it makes more sense in a video game, I think. I think it's hard to do with a miniature game to make a cozy game that's like exploration. I don't know. Grinding is the killer of fun from MMORPGs for me. Yeah, I understand that. Bread art? No, that sounds like my jam. A little bit of grape jam maybe on there if you want to. With youngsters, I can't wait for your axolotl mini game. Do I have to learn 3D sculpting and make a range before you and Vince make the rules? I don't see us making an axolotl mini game. I don't even know what it would be about. Honestly, if you want a game for kids, I mean, it's going to sound a little weird, but honestly, Tanks for the Apocalypse is definitely, well, and Great Goblin and Argle Bargle are both child approved. Tom from the Wargame or the Warhammer Weekly show that he and Vince generally do the Warhammer Weekly show on Vince's channel on Wednesdays. Tom is our lead developer, so his job is to try to break the game mathematically so that we can fix it so that you can't break the game mathematically. That's a very simplified version of it, but yeah. If you watched, we did a live show on Vince's channel a couple of weeks ago talking about Rain and Iron, and Tom was there too and talked quite a bit about what development is in comparison to design and things like that and everything. But those last two games for Snarl, both of those games he play tested with his kids. Tanks for the Apocalypse got play tested during his son's birthday party. So it was like a sleepover birthday party, and he taught them how to play the game, and then they played it, and they had a great time. And like I said, it can go up to 10 people on a board. And then on the next morning, like on Saturday morning, or when they woke up after the slumber party, they asked if they could play it again. So I'm like, right there, that seems like, if the kids are like, can we do that again? It seems good, right? So both of the, and they've done the same thing with the Goblin game as well. Also, the kids, it wasn't the same birthday. I think it was something else, but his kids asked to play the Goblin game from time to time. So both of those games definitely will work with kids. And those are both in the last two episodes of Snarl. There's Snarl 2023 and Snarl 2024, and they are $8 each. So there you go. If you go to our website, do I have a page for our website, or can I do that? Let me see if I can do that. Let me go to websites. That's not it. Where are we here? This one, properties. We want Google Chrome, Sterling Venture Studios. That's the one. Okay. Slide you right there. If you go to Snarl Zine up on the top, it will show you. So this is Snarl 2024, and you've got the Great Goblin Argle Bargle. There's also an add-on for Rain and Hell called The Broken Door. There's an add-on for Majestic 13 called New Gear Drop. And there was an add-on for Death Wizards, which at this time had just come out, called Fresh Creations. And again, it's $8. It's 36 pages. And then there's some videos about it. And then there's Snarl 2023, which has got Tanks for the Apocalypse, Rain and Hell, The Reckoning, which is an expansion for that, and Space Station Zero, New Discoveries, which is an expansion for Space Station Zero. And again, $8. And there you go. So you can find them there if you're interested in doing that. Now I've lost my chat window. Chat window, hello. Where did you go? There you are. Okay. Let's see here. Best thing about The Sims is putting them in the pool and then deleting the ladder. I had a friend who played, and he said he had a sim that was just absolutely addicted to using the gas grill, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. It was always gas grill time, and then eventually started on fire and died. And then the other roommate was sad and then would cry at their tombstone, which was on the patio next to the gas grill, because that's how things work in video games. What are you gonna do? It's pretty easy to make cozy tabletop as long as you're making something co-op. Competitive games with a person face-to-face clashes with cozy's core concept. Well, sure, yeah. But even then, I just still, again, board game, different story. Miniatures game, I don't know. Is the axolotl game about cloning? I don't know. I only vaguely know what axolotls are. They're like a weird little salamander, right? Tom tested, kid approved. Basically, yes. That's pretty much, should put a stamp on the thing. Good morning from the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. How you doing? Molly enjoys cute things and spoopy things and skeletons and stuff. Molly is a weird girl. I mean, skeletons are a lot of fun, obviously. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Oh, don't do that. Oh, I get it. You got me. So yeah, right now, like I know some people, I think some people, and when I say some people, I mean some content creators. I believe some have probably been sent like a big box of the new Horus Heresy shenanigans. I got the last box of Horus Heresy shenanigans, but I did not get this box of Horus Heresy shenanigans, which is fine. I don't know, like I've gotten other stuff recently, but it's like I told GW a number of years back. I'm like, can you please stop sending me 40K stuff? Because I don't have, like, there was a time where I was getting a codex every other week, it felt like, you know what I mean? Like maybe an 8th edition or something like that. It was way too much. And I just don't, I'm not really talking about this stuff. And you keep sending it to me. You guys should keep it and, you know, send it to somebody else who's going to talk about it or whatever. So there's that. And so they've only been really just sending me skirmish stuff. You know what I mean? Which is fine. But they still send me like the big, we'll call them tent pole releases, meaning that, like, you know, 10th edition 40K starter box. They sent me that. They sent me the 4th edition Skaven Tide, whatever box, the Age of Sigmar box. So I sort of thought they were going to send this, and I'm fine that they didn't because, of, again, big shoulders, not my jam, and I just don't need any of that stuff, and that's fine. It's not really what I'm talking about generally. But I am pretty sure that people have been, that some content creators have been getting the stuff and probably painting it and all. I don't know when the release date is or any other thing along those lines, but yeah, that's just the way it works. Yeah, just looking at this guy, like here. No, well, yeah, kind of. Like, how does, look how wide the space is there in, for his groin. How do his legs do that? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't, a human doesn't fit in there unless when that human comes out, they're just like, they got like a thigh gap that's like a foot wide. It's weird. I don't understand that. Anyway, I'm looking at this other picture that I was considering using in the thumbnail. Can I make that, wait. What if I grab this tab and drag it to here? Yes, and then do that. Like, how's a guy fit in there? That's just not a thing. Like, look how wide that thigh gap is. How are a human's legs fitting in there? I don't care if they're an engineered human or not. That human looks real weird when they get out of that equipment at the end of the day. That's just, yeah, kind of silly. Honestly, the reason I didn't go with this image is because the last like 3 or 4 episodes that I've done of the Every Other Sunday show have had very like low color, like almost black and white thumbnails, because there was like the one last or 2 weeks ago that was basically just like the renders of the Robot Legions guys from Onepage Rules, and then previous to that it was like a black and white piece of artwork from like Rain in Hell, and I forget what the one previous to that was. So I was like, I should probably make sure that I do something that's a little bit more colorful so they don't all look exactly the same, like stacked up against each other or whatever, but not really that important, I suppose. That is some serious manspreading. Yes, absolutely. I assume he has a reversing camera because he clearly can't turn his head to see behind him. Also true, also probably makes a beeping noise when he backs up. Or maybe that weird kind of angry noise that the Amazon vans make when they back up. And it's like, meh, 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 meh. I mean, those are annoying. So it probably works. Will you do a 40K combat patrol tier list? No. You mean like take all the combat patrols and then say which ones are? I wouldn't be the guy to answer that question, as it turns out. I mean, I could do it on vibes, or I could do it on like what I think they look like. But as far as like playing the game, I'm not strategically minded, so I can't say, well, this is the top tier, this is the S tier, because I don't know. Um, the benefit is the person, if they wanted to do that, could do it, because you can go and download all the PDFs and look at that stuff without having to buy all the boxes to get the information. So that's cool and all, but yeah, that's not a, I don't know. I haven't played any combat patrol in a minute. I have 4 painted combat patrols. I have Tyranids, Guard, Space Marines, and Death Watch. I did Death Watch first, then Space Marines, then no, I don't have Tyranids. Necrons, sorry, Necrons. I did Death Watch first, then Space Marines, then Guard, then Necrons. That's what I did. And I also have the old Combat Patrol, the more interesting one, for Dark Angels. Not finished, though. I have the 5 Primaris guys painted, and I have the Redemptor Dreadnought painted. I have the Chaplain or whatever. The Primaris Chaplain is like half painted, maybe. And then I started trying to build the 3 suppressors, I think they're called, the big jump pack guys with the long guns, and then realized that they were going to take a lot longer than the time that I had. I was trying to get them done in time for Adepticon, and then I realized that each of their backpacks was 11 pieces, and I didn't make it. I didn't get it done in time. But like I said, the Primaris guys are done, and the big Redemptor Dreadnought is done. Anyway, that all being said, I haven't played a game of combat patrol in a minute. It's been, last time we played, I think it was me versus Sam, and I think it was Guard versus, I think it was my Guard versus his Tyranids, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was my Guard versus his Necrons. I don't remember. Because he's got Necrons as well. He's got Necrons and Tyranids, and I think those are the only 2 that he's got done. That all being said, I don't think I'd be the right guy to make a video. How about a tier list for Combat Patrol? Let's see here. In the Dune series of books, the axolotl tanks were where they grow the clones, like Duncan, Idaho. Oh, I had no idea. Oh, sorry. I assume he has ever read that one. When they say transhuman, they don't mean the extreme muscles. They mean the extreme thigh gap. I mean, maybe. Stephanie, how you doing? If YouTube can be added to the Labor Party's social media restrictions, will it affect your channel much? How many under 16s watch your Vince's channel or hobby advice? Not a lot. I guess I haven't heard about the Labor Party social media restrictions, but I guess that makes sense. Like my, because what they do is they show you, YouTube shows you, in your metrics for viewers, it shows you a lot of, like, how am I trying to say this? Age ranges. And I think it's like 13 to 17, and then it's like 18 to 24, and then 25 to 36, or I don't know, whatever. My 13 to 50, or sorry, 13 to 17 is usually less than 1%. So yeah, I don't know if it would have a huge effect on me. But you know, at least in Necromunda, when they made the spires, they said explicitly that some of them had require amputation of limbs. I mean, that makes more sense then, yeah. If we start to think about physics actually working in 40K, we have to throw out any Tyranid bigger than a spore mine. Sure. There is an overlay of a Space Marine over the Saturnine armor that actually makes sense. It's out there on Reddit, I think. I don't know how that would happen, but, you know. I still think it's just him all curled up in a ball on the inside. Tier lists usually bring me to tears. Some people dig that stuff, I guess. I've never done one before, so I don't even know. Actually, knowing the subject matter is not required for the YouTube tier genre of tier list videos. I mean, you would think it would, wouldn't it? Rule of cool for me. That's why I play Eldar. Winning an actual game is the friends we made along the way. Sure. Greetings from Canada, the center of the universe. How you doing, Other Dave? Very cool either way. Thanks for sharing. Absolutely. Keep the good work, Senor Adam. I'm hobbling my FDM printing proxies. Or hobbying. Maybe hobbying. I don't know if you'd be hobbling them. Maybe you are. It's up to you. For my IG army. Gotcha. Fine and dandy, trying to stay cool. How are you? It was getting warm in here, but then luckily the AC finally kicked in. So now, and there's a vent sort of directly underneath my desk, which is just basically blowing up on my legs right now, which is actually sort of nice. So yeah, because it gets warm in the sunroom when I close the door. I've got the door closed, as otherwise cats will sometimes come in and wreak havoc. Mostly Rex, but yes. I've liked tier lists that are built around a very specific lesson. How well would this model take a Zenithal? How many of these could you paint before you can't see the edge highlights anymore? Sure, I mean, that'd be something. Like I said, I could talk about all just like looking at the pictures and being like, I think these guys are cool, and these, but does anybody care, I guess, in my situation? Like, if you're a good player who understands the strategery, and then you say, this is a good box and this is a bad box and here are the reasons why, and I'm going to put them into a thing, other people who are interested in that information will probably watch that video. I mean, Lord knows there's plenty of tier lists out there, but it's, I don't understand strategery all that well, so I'm not very good at it. Has anyone made the big shoulders and I cannot lie joke? Oh yeah, right at the beginning. Yep. If you were going to pick up one combat patrol and one spearhead, which would they be? Well, I mean, so far, like I said, I've done, I started with Death Watch, and they were fun to paint. And then I did the Space Marines, because they came in the new Indomitus box, or whatever it's called. Leviathan, sorry. Indomitus was 9th edition. They were in the Leviathan box. So that's fine. And then I did Guard, and I did Necrons. Necrons I already had from Indomitus, most of them painted. I just had to add a few more units, and then they were fine. Necrons are pretty cool. I would probably do them. They're pretty quick to paint too, especially the way I do them. I do really love the Guard. Well, I don't know if there's a new Guard box, isn't there? See, that's the thing. I like a lot of the older boxes. Is there a new Guard box? I'm gonna go take a look, aren't I? Sure, why not? Let's go take a look. Warhammer 40K. Click. Combat Patrol. Leagues of Votan. No, I don't like those motorcycles so much. Drakari. No. World Eaters. No. Eldari. No. Oh, right. Yeah, the new Astra Militarum has got those weird horses. Nope, don't want them. I like the old one with the Armored Sentinel and the artillery pieces and stuff like that. So yeah, that's not awesome. Blood Angels, like that's the thing. If you look at these, almost every single one of them is just like, oops, all Space Marines, or oops, all just troops. Like as soon as there's a new Drakari box, I'm sure they'll get rid of these two vehicles, and then it'll just be 28 skinny little nerds running around or whatever. I mean, Blood Angels used to have some sort of interesting stuff in it. Nope, not anymore. Imperial Agents, that's a lot of nothing going on. At least the Gene Stealer cults still have some vehicles a little bit. Yeah, they heavily changed because the old box, Combat Patrol box for the Sisters had, I think, whatever their Rhino is called. I can't remember. Chaos Space Marines, just all dudes. Tau Empire, mostly all dudes, but there is a bigger robot, but I don't know if they've fixed this one yet or not. I don't remember. I don't know if this is the new one or not. I can't keep track anymore. Custodes, yeah, you don't have the guys on their bikes anymore. Dark Angels, boring, because it used to have a Redemptor Dreadnought in it. Now it doesn't. Depths Mechanicus got boring because it doesn't have the vehicle in it anymore. It just has these weird bat guys. Like, I would want to paint them black and make them goth. The Orcs Combat Patrol got real boring because it used to have Killicans in it, all kinds of cool stuff, and it was great. Now it's like, meh. Necron's one is still okay because at least it's got this guy, the Doomstalker or whatever it's called. Combat Patrol Death Guard, at least it's, if anything, this one got better because it used to be 50, well, not 50, but like 40 Poxwalkers, and now it's just like, I don't know what, 10 dudes in a car. That's cool. Emperor's Children, yeah. Space Marines was fast because it was like 11 models or maybe 12. I think it was, yeah, because it was 5 Space Marines with the flamer thingies. It was 5 Terminators, and then it was a Terminator Librarian and a Terminator Captain, and that's it. So it was 12 models. Here's a little trick, though. If you're interested in, say, Combat Patrol Space Marines, but you don't want to pay $168, what you do instead is you go and you buy a starter box called the Warhammer Starter Set, which is right here. This Warhammer Starter Set is $112, and it comes with the $168 Combat Patrol for the Space Marines in there. And it comes with almost the entire Tyranid Combat Patrol in this box as well. You have to buy one separate unit to make it so you have 2 of these. So the separate unit, I forget what they're called, barb gaunts or something. They're like little artillery pieces, and they have like a rocket launcher on their shoulder, but they're Tyranids. And I think that box costs like $40 or something like that, or maybe 45. So for $112 plus 40 or 45 bucks, you get 2 $168 to $170 combat patrols, if you're interested. But yeah, even if you're not interested in the Tyranids, you could throw those guys up on eBay and still spend $112 to get this group of Space Marines, which is a combat patrol, and it would still be just cheaper. Or you could take the Tyranids and, I don't know, use them for bits, or use them for a different game, or sell them on eBay, or throw them in the garbage, whatever. You still saved like $60 almost. I mean, not quite, but still, it's very interesting that this is a thing that GW's done. I'm like, how do you expect anyone to decide to pay $168 for 12 Space Marines when you're selling 12 Space Marines plus nearly an entire another combat patrol of Tyranids for 112, plus, I don't know, a mat, some dice, those little rulers to smack your friends with, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't quite get it. I've liked tier lists that are, oh, I read that. Sorry. I've really enjoyed you and Vince doing the Snarlcast. Fantastic insights and really enjoyable long-form content. Well, I appreciate that. New one coming out tomorrow. Yeah, today's Sunday. Yep, new one coming out tomorrow. Yep. Need to stick on a lot of new things to get the kids' way, which may prevent adults from being able to gain access. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. I think I might have missed something there. Oh, with the YouTube and Labor Party. Gotcha. They got in immediately as the system would ID one kid as 14 in the first pass, and then the same kid as 37. Oh, geez, yeah. Like, I think most kids probably that are using YouTube these days, a lot of them are probably just on their parents' account anyway. So I've never really thought that, at least, like, yeah, like, sure, you're from 13 to 17 in that age bracket. That's fine. But how do we, like, the only reason we know that is because you have your own specific YouTube account, maybe, I'm assuming, but who knows? Did you get around to having a go at the Halo game? I haven't played it since I played it at Dragonfall. I did a demo at Dragonfall. I've got the models painted up in the Recon set or whatever that set that was. So yeah. Picked up a box of War Dogs for the Chaos Knights Combat Patrol. Yeah, that's a cool Combat Patrol. Sororitas Rhinos are called Rhinos. I thought they had like a weird name because they were different. I don't know. Oops, all horses. It's enough Tyranid bits to decorate bases for 3 to 4 full armies. Also true. Prices on the GW site make my wallet cry just to look at them, and they are in USD. Also true. Aren't they just push fit? The Tyranids, or I don't, maybe. Grandma doesn't know from Warhammer boxes. She just knows her kid likes the Space Marine men. Sure, true. Ultimate starter is just push fit. But if that's the case, if these guys are push fit, then the models in Leviathan were push fit, which they probably were. That's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Because yeah, that's what I'm saying is that this set of models here, this group of six, this group of 12 models is the exact same ones that are in the combat patrol, which is way down at the bottom here. So these guys are also then push fit. It's the exact same models. These are the ones that were in Leviathan. They're the ones that are in that $112 box. And here you can buy them without the Tyranids for considerably more. So, you know, there's a thing you can do. Did you guys know that before the invention of the crowbar, Dark Angels typically drank at home? Weird. UK's laws will have a huge effect on you when I have to move to America and live under your basement. Well, there's not a lot of space under my basement. There's probably some space underneath the slab in our garage because we think that squirrels have been digging a civilization underneath a concrete slab. So you could, if you can fight them off and then become their king, then you could live under there. Sisters have immolators and exorcists, but they are rhinos with guns. Gotcha. Just like many Space Marines, tanks are rhinos plus guns, but they are still tanks. Gotcha. Did you mean Raven Guard? That would make more sense now that you mention it. Yeah, probably. Yeah, Raven Guard would drink at home. That makes sense. I enjoyed painting those that Space Marine Combat Patrol. It was fun. I painted them up like Blood Angels. And because the original idea was, when 10th came out, I was going to paint up the Combat Patrol for Space Marines as Blood Angels. And then I was going to paint up the Combat Patrol Blood Angels as Blood Angels. And then I would have those two groups that I could slap together, and I would throw in like some HQ guy and I think some sort of Dreadnought. And then I'd have 1,000 points. I was like, cool. And then I started playing Combat Patrol, and then they changed the rules like 16 times and all this and all that. And then I never did paint the old Blood Angels Combat Patrol, which came with a not the repulsor tank, but the impulsor. I don't know, whatever it is. It's like a floating pickup truck. I like to call it the Space El Camino. And then there was some other stuff in that box and everything. And I kind of liked that box and everything. And now the new box for Combat Patrol for Blood Angels is, again, just all Space Marines. Kind of boring. But yeah. So anyway, I would, if I'm going to play an army game, I'm much more likely these days, it seems, to play one-page rules, because I think that, A, I like that there's fewer models, and B, that I also like that the rules are better, in my opinion. Squirrelization. Ooh. Sounds like it is time to take a hose to the squirrel kingdom. I mean, that sounds mean, but also sort of fun. I should get some GoPro cameras down inside there first and then do it, because then, you know. I don't see Nick back there. Is he out on patrol with Emily? He is... Where is he? Oh, you can kind of just see the edge. Well, you guys can't. See this light blue thing right there? That is technically his shoulder. He's not in exactly the same spot that he normally is, where he's looming and looking through the window, but he is technically over there. Yeah, he... my wife has been playing in... She's been practicing for... What's going on? It's a musical. She's playing in the orchestra pit for a musical, and so she's been practicing once a week lately. So he's been getting more workout. Do you keep your painted minis in a display case, or just keep them packed away? Well, the idea is eventually to put some of them in a display case. I own one of those IKEA Deltoff or whatever they're called display cases, but it is still in the box because I need to get the basement squared away before I want to build it. But I did also just recently... I have stuff stacked on it, so I had to move it. But that was just a piece of cardboard. I did recently get one of these things. So this is made by what is it? Artist Opus, the guys that make the fancy dry brushes and stuff like that. And this is a case. It's sideways. It goes this way technically, but it's going to have little shelves in it. The door is held on magnetically, which makes me nervous. But what are you going to do? It's got lights in it. Yep, it's got lights in it. They'll plug in or whatever. I ordered this thing in July of last year, and it finally showed up like last month. So if you're interested now, you might be able to order one from them, but it took forever. So my plan is that's probably going to go back here somewhere on top of that thing, but we'll see. I was thinking about working on it this weekend and working on this office because it's a mess, but then I've got stuff to do with, I've got to go out to the hospital again and bring some stuff out to my mom, and I've been fighting with the internet all day yesterday, and so it's just I've got other work I got to get done that I haven't been able to get done. But I would like to display some stuff. I don't know, like in the basement, I'm less concerned about it. I'm a little concerned about displaying stuff up here because this is the sunroom, and I'm pretty sure that this piece of plexiglass that's on this magnetic door thing, I'm pretty sure this isn't UV blocking or whatever, right? So I just don't know if I want, like, you guys can't see it, but directly above the frame at the top up here, there is a picture that I've got framed. It's a picture I took in Vegas back in 2020, just before the pandemic. It's probably the best picture I've ever taken. And I got it printed pretty large and framed, but I didn't just want to like leave it in here and have the sun bleach it to death. So I went to this local glass store and I ordered a piece of like museum anti-UV glass for it, which was not cheap. But I can't really figure out a great way to do that with this, because you'll notice here, this plexiglass is like perfectly rounded. So I'd have to like somehow commission them to cut me this and then drill the holes and stuff. And there's already like, but this is plexiglass. It's not glass. So I don't know that it's UV safe. So I don't know. I might be putting miniatures into that case and then leaving them back here to basically get bleached in the sun. It doesn't get that bright, like direct light in here, because I have put shades and stuff up on all the windows, but I've only got really a couple of them. Like the two shades that are directly behind the computer here, I've got those pulled down all the time. And then I have a shade over here in this window that I pull down sometimes when the sun is setting and hitting me in the face, but it's more in the winter, kind of, because in the summer, there's a tree out here that then the leaves block all that stuff, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But anyway, it's one of those things that I like to think about. Have a great day. Enjoyed chatting with y'all. Absolutely, Matt. You got one of them fancy display boxes? Yeah, but like I said, it took forever. Like, I paid for it back in July of last year. And I thought it was like the Kickstarter was done or whatever. Maybe it was GameFound. I don't remember. I thought that was all done, and then that now they were just taking regular orders. What I did not understand is I was getting in on a late pledge. And then they were building all that stuff and preparing everything and getting it all ready to go. And I would bump into them at shows. I'd be like, when do you? And they're like, oh yeah, it's coming soon. Okay. But it wasn't literally until earlier this year that I realized, oh, I didn't just order it and expect to get, I ordered it as part of the late pledge, and they were still working on the initial overall Kickstarter plus the late pledges. And I was like, ugh. So yeah, it did finally show. And now I'm, like I said, I want to put it over there and do all that stuff with it, but then everything else has been going on. So you could put it in the background of your regular videos in the studio. I don't know if anyone would see it down there, but maybe. Can you get a UV coating for the case? I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of film I could buy, but I think it would be, I don't know. It's a good question. I should look into it though. Mr. Hobby has an excellent UV cut matte varnish. Oh, well, something to think about. I think if I put a matte varnish though on the window though, it would make it like a frosted window. So I don't know if we want to do that. 3D printed multiboard is the greatest organizational tool I have come across for mini painting. Literally a printed part for organizing nearly every tool, paint or anything else hobby related. Huh. I see people that do stuff like that. They 3D print these fancy things for their drawers where they can put like photographers I see do it. And they're like, oh yeah. And then everything fits into its perfect hole and everything like that. And I'm like, but what if you sell that lens and buy a different lens? Then you have to 3D print a new thing for the next thing. And then you have to, and I would just, I don't know. I'm not as much into organization. I think some people are actually a little bit more into organizing their stuff than they are to using their stuff. And I don't, frankly, myself want to be that, but you know, one of the FLGS leaves their older miniatures out in the front window to just get blasted by the sun all day. They survive well compared to boxes. Yeah, like definitely printing stuff. Yeah, I think that the paint jobs would probably work better than things that are printed. And when I say printed, I don't mean 3D printed, but like books. Like my wife used to have a bookshelf in this room before I kind of took it over, and I technically have a bookshelf back here. And some of the stuff in that bookshelf, like the spines, definitely got faded over the years. So I'm a little concerned about that. But again, like I said, I'm also generally, I've got a little bit more shade going on in here now because of the shades. So there's that too. But it's not something I'd subject my minis to. Yeah, it's a concern. But the case, well, eventually the case down in the basement, that one I won't have to worry about UV at all. An auto tint shop might be able to put a high vis tint on it for you. I suppose it's possible. I'll have to look around for that online a little bit. So the next week, my painting guide about how to paint the biggest of shoulders for the Saturdine kit, that'll be coming out. That's not true. That's not true at all. I've got an idea of what my video for next week is. It was going to be a video I was going to do for this week, and then it required a lot of extra filming and stuff and some testing and a little bit of things, and so it didn't happen because of everything that was going on with my mom. So hopefully I'll be able to maybe plan well enough to be able to get it out for this week, that video. But otherwise, my next big thing, really, as far as like traveling or anything like that, is Gen Con, which is coming up at the very end of July. Like the last day of July. Let me see here. So while I'm gone at Gen Con, there will not be just the normal schedule is going to skip Gen Con. So there won't be any disruption to the schedule for the Every Other Sunday show, because Gen Con is the July 31st. We're technically leaving on the 30th on Wednesday, but it's July 31st, the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. And according to my calendar on my thing here, the Every Other Sunday show would not be on the 3rd. It'd be on the July 27th, and it would be on August 10th. So that's pretty cool. And I think we're not going to have a problem with Nova either, which would be astounding that this stuff is just like lining up perfectly. Because Nova, I'm pretty sure, is the 28th to the 1st. And that would mean the 31st to be Sunday. And that's not on my calendar for this either. Nova Open. Yep. So there will be no disruption for the next two shows I go to, both Gen Con and also Nova Open in DC. So that's awesome. And then October, I'm going to Dragonfall convention. There we go. And that is the third, stop it. The 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th of October. So that one, there will be maybe some disruption. So we'll have to figure that out. I've tried to do a live show from Dragonfall in the past, and the internet there is kind of crap. So it's probably not going to happen. But that's a ways away. We'll figure things out. But at least the next two shows, again, no disruption with the show. So that's good. All right, folks. Well, it's about 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods, 11 o'clock a.m. And I will see you folks again in here in 2 weeks. And in theory, if you're interested, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night, as long as I can figure out the internet problem. I mean, push comes to shove, I can just basically make it so that it works, but then we don't have any Wi-Fi in the house while I'm streaming, which I don't want to do, but you know, we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much that. And I hope everybody has a good rest of their day or beginning of their day if they're starting their day over on the other side of the planet, and have yourselves a good week, I hope, and get some hobby done if you're in the mood and you got the time, and don't beat yourself up if you don't get it done, and stay safe, and thanks for watching.